One of the key reasons why you might want to use a laptop over the smartphone is because a laptop has a big old-fashioned keyboard that you can put your hands on. I'm Tom Brandt, this is Sasha Segan, and we have a bunch of laptops with different keyboards here, and we're talking about them because Apple has made a small change to its very controversial laptop keyboard. And we're going to walk you through that, what we think about the change, and why you might or might not want to buy a MacBook Pro specifically for the keyboard.
Okay, so in 2016, Apple switched from a very good keyboard to an absolute trash keyboard. And I'm Sasha Segan, lead analyst at PC Mag, and I have a very strong opinion about MacBook keyboards.
Yes, and many people do have very strong opinions because, as you mentioned, they had a huge change. The 2015 era MacBook Pros had, a pretty fairly common island-style keyboard that has pretty good key travel. It's backlit, and the keys are sturdy, but there's a pretty good pressing distance when you press them.
Yeah, it's not too loud. It has travel. I actually have two 2015 13-inch MacBook Pros at home. This is the model I have, and I went in 2018. I went and found a 2015 model to buy because that keyboard is so much better than the keyboards they were offering at the time.
And okay, so the keyboards they were offering at the time, that is this right here. It's the 2016 MacBook Pro, which is the first one to feature this new keyboard, which you've explained is very different. What exactly is this?
So this keyboard is a worthless, finger-hurting piece of trash. It is possibly the worst mainstream laptop keyboard that I've ever seen. Its major feature is that it is insanely flat.
Yeah,
it is so flat.
You can see how flat.
Yeah, it is so flat. It is almost like typing on a piece of paper. It is so flat that it is relatively close to typing on a smartphone, which is what you are not wanting to do.
See, here's the thing. What Apple probably did is they figured that lots of people now type on their smartphones all day long, and rather than give them an out from that, a luxurious keyboard that you can type a novel on or things like that, they figured, well, people are already used to smartphones. Let's replicate that on a laptop.
So I have a particular objection to this keyboard, which is that it's loud. It's loud. If you're a hard typer, it hurts your fingers. Okay, you are landing hard on this keyboard. But there's another objection that a much broader group of people have had, which is that the keyboard is actually defective. When this keyboard, if any kind of dust or particulates gets into it, it stops working. And there has been a flood of people bringing broken MacBook Pros back to the Apple Store because they got a tiny speck of dust under their E key and they can no longer type E. And this is a thing I never saw happen with this model.
Yeah.
Okay. I never
the E works.
Yeah, I never saw that kind of ingress problem happen until they introduced this new lousy keyboard factor. And Apple had to go back and forth and do new repair and warranty policies based on this craptacular keyboard, right?
And that's actually, yes, and that's actually why we're here right now talking about this, because the latest 2019 MacBook Pro has an updated version of the very shallow butterfly keyboard that Apple says has been revamped specifically to address this problem that you just described, which is things getting in the keyboard underneath the keys and preventing it from working.
Now, in 2018, they said that they improved it by putting a little rubber gasket around the edge of the keys.
Yes.
Did they do something else in 2019?
Now, in 2019, they actually aren't telling us the improvements that they've made to the keyboard, but all that they'll say is that it's designed to increase reliability.
So me being me, if they're not telling us, I assume that means they didn't do anything and it's complete BS?
Yeah, it's possible. And the thing is, the reliability is the key reason that they've updated. It's not to get rid of this shallow, clicky feel. They're not apologizing for that.
So what happens with the feel is that, and I saw this with the 2018 keyboards, is that it's still too shallow, but the keys land a little more softly. Okay, these keys land really hard.
Yes, there is no forgiving nature to these keys at all, whereas on this one you feel a bit of a thunk.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a cushion that it's landing on, and that's the rubber gasket.
Yeah.
And so that makes it a little bit easier on your fingers, but if you're someone who expects your keys to have give, and that's how you fly along a keyboard, if you're like, I'm bringing the keyboard, okay, so you want to see the keyboard I use at my desk?
Let's bring this up here.
This is my keyboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what you should use.
Yeah. So if you're using a DOS keyboard X50 with giant
Look
switches
at that travel.
with a tremendous
Oh my God.
amount of travel, I love this. Okay. Then this is still absolute anathema to the way you type, and it just continues to stun me. That it stuns me on one level that they built a totally defective keyboard that, a Cheerio crumb gets in and then the whole thing stops working and there's no way to fix it. But it stuns me on another level that they have so little care for the tactile experience of using your laptop, when I feel like that used to be a big thing about Apple. I remember we used to recommend MacBooks even if you wanted to run Windows because the hardware was so elegant.
Yeah, there used to be no, it was the ultimate ultra portable laptop.
Yeah.
But the thing I will say, and this is not a counterpoint to what you said, but I typed 5,000 or more than 5,000 words on this very keyboard right here, this newest 2019 version of their Butterfly keyboard. And I am now used to the feel, but that doesn't mean that I'm comfortable with the feel. I just have, I've realized that in certain situations, you can get used to this idea of not typing, but rather tapping on the keyboard.
Right, you're resigned to it.
Yes, it's not a comfort thing. I would much rather type on that DOS keyboard that you just pulled up there. But that's the reality of the situation for anyone who buys a brand new MacBook Pro.
So let's say people want to use macOS, okay, and they want to use macOS, and they don't want to have this miserable finger experience. Is there any other option?
Well, that's the thing, is that last year when this one came out, the second generation revamped keyboard, I think you actually said, it's too bad that they killed off the 2015 era MacBook Pro, which we have here, because that was the only other option. So what you are limited to now, other than buying a used MacBook Pro, is there is a MacBook Air that has the old style keyboard. It's the one that was last updated in 2016.
Or I could just plug my
but that's
keyboard.
not a solution. This is the solution here.
I was going to say, or I could plug my keyboard into this laptop, but I can't because keyboards have USB-A plugs, and these laptops only have USB-C.
Yes, a dongle or wireless are your only options.
Hashtag dongle life.
Yeah, but I mean, so basically the typist, the person who buys a laptop to type specifically because it has a physical keyboard, which mobile devices do not, you either tap on the keyboard or you don't buy this. and I think we know what your thoughts are. Would you recommend someone buy like a used one or just specifically for the keyboard, if that's all they need?
I mean, if what they're doing is, if they have strong feelings about keyboards, I would recommend they switch to Windows.
Yeah, that's true. You can find any type of Windows keyboard on a laptop that you want. There are even mechanical ones, not as good as this one, but some laptops, Windows laptops, have mechanical.
Yeah, our third laptop at home, we just bought a Lenovo that has a terrific keyboard. Lenovo laptops, man, I mean, for the past 30 years, just non-stop keyboard excellence.
Yeah, the thing is, you can get the benefits of, so the benefits of this are really stable keys and very good backlight. You're not going to see backlight bleeding through the keys because it's so shallow and so well constructed. But other companies, like you mentioned, Lenovo, have figured out how to do that with still, a distance though.
Yeah. So I guess in summary, they've made a bad keyboard a little better, maybe a little more reliable. Maybe it won't break quite as often, but in my view, still a bad keyboard.
Yes, and a bit of objective consumer advice here, besides our ranting about the keyboards. If you do experience this issue that they've been trying to correct with the dust going in, you can bring it to an Apple store, and they've said that they will take care of you even if your laptop is not under warranty. That's just a general PSA out there for anyone who might have this issue, but as we've said, avoid it by broadening your horizons.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go take my dust keyboard back to my desk and hook it up over there.
And I'm gonna go do some exercises and recover from typing 5,000 words on this. Thanks very much for watching, and definitely read the full review of this MacBook Pro when it comes out on PCMag.com.